I don't really know where to begin on this, but as you know, last night, February 24th, 2026, they had what was supposed to be the State of the Union. And as everybody knows, the State of the Union is where the President of the United States addresses Congress to tell them what they have done so far in their administration and what other policies they have that they're going to be doing or what they're considering, and basically letting everybody know about the job that they're doing. Now, I decided to live blog this entire thing that I actually called the fairy tale theater because that's basically what it was. And I already said that right off the bat, how many lies is Donald Trump going to say? In my live blog, I counted 85 on my end. In fact, the very first lie he said was less than 30 seconds after he started, which was America has reached its golden age. And he's acting like we were poor and that we didn't have, and that our country was like not even worthy of anything. And that's a lie because we were never in trouble as a country. We always were perseverant. But I'm going to go through each one of my lies, and if I'm incorrect with anything, please feel free to correct me in the comments, and I'd very much appreciate it. But these are based on my observations, based on my observation, and based on what I know. But I did say one lie, which he didn't actually say. And one thing I did mention was that he was going to say he has the best poll numbers ever of anything. Surprisingly, he didn't even mention that. But it would have been a lie because he has the lowest poll numbers of any president whatsoever. But he didn't even mention that. The Epstein survivors were there, and unfortunately or fortunately, he didn't attack them or even acknowledge them. So he didn't even mention the Epstein files, which I actually thought he was going to mention the Epstein files and use it to attack Democrats and anybody else and the survivors that were there. But surprisingly, he left that off the table. He also started the night by congratulating his wife Melania and Usha, the vice president's wife, and congratulating them for everything they've done. My question is, what have they done to deserve any honor? Have we heard of any? And if you recall, Melania once had a campaign called "Be Best" or "Be Better" or whatever it was you wanted to call it. Nobody knew what that meant, but here's the first lie he actually told, or the second lie, saying that America was weak under the Biden campaign, which is wrong. The lie is because we were always strong and we never left. He says America was weak and disappeared, and now we are back and stronger than ever. No, that's a lie. America was always here. We were always strong. Not only were we strong, we were one of the most advanced countries in the world. And a lot of the countries actually came to study by. There's a reason why a lot of people from all over the world came to study in our country. Why you have people, a lot of the people who are scientists today, who are doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, because they all came to this country to study. These are people who came to MIT, Harvard, Yale, Ivy League schools. It's not the American people who are smart, and I'm not saying that they're not. They are smart, but the reason why we have a lot of these Indian doctors, why we have a lot of these engineers, it's because they all came and studied by us because we were the best and we had it all. So we were always strong. We never left. Donald Trump says our economy is the best as it's ever been right now. No, it's not. We had a great economy and everything was good. Trump destroyed it all. And I include that with the tariffs that he actually spoke about last night that I'm going to get to in a minute. Line number 4 is Trump basically taking success for everything that President Biden had done. Everything that President Biden had done, Donald Trump was taking credit for it because he cannot stand the fact that somebody but him had something to do with it. And I'm going to do this. Lie 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He was complaining about how fentanyl, that he got rid of the fentanyl problem because we kept getting it into this country and was being smuggled in illegally. First of all, fentanyl wasn't that much of a problem in the United States. It mostly was in Canada and other places, but fentanyl in America, we never had a problem with it. I mean, we had a problem, but not as much as Donald Trump makes it out to be. And by the way, and the lie about immigrants being here illegally, well, no, that's actually false because green cards, visas, and citizenship tests. Okay, you cannot be an American citizen here unless you've been here for at least 6 months to a year. And I know this from personal experience because I have a friend who's actually French Canadian, and she texted me one day saying, I get congratulations because I passed my test. And I'm like, what test? She goes, oh, I took my citizenship test and I passed. A test I didn't even know she was studying for. And so in order to become a citizen, you have to be living here, right? And green cards allow you to do that. And there's a lot of ways. And here's how I know this, because number one, when you come here, the only way to stay here is for a green card. That's why you have a lot of people, women mostly, who want to get married, or even men. They'll get married to an American citizen. Someone once asked me, and if you have a green card, as long as you're married to an American citizen, you're okay. The problem with this is that there's a lot of fraud with that green card, and the government does check up on you to make sure you're following the rules and laws of actually having the green card, because it's very easy to scam the government with the green card. So in order to do that, you actually have to be married, show the papers you're married. And I'm not sure about the laws of the green cards, but I do know that the green card you can get by marriage and by other means. And then the visa is you're on a student visa, which means you're allowed to go to school here if you get a student visa, which, yes, you have to renew or they can deport you. There's also the work visa, which is if you're working here, you get a visa to work here, which is why when you fill out an application, it says, will you now or ever need a sponsorship to work here? And then again, the citizenship test. So nobody just becomes, so everybody who comes to this country is going to be an illegal immigrant. There's no such thing as they have to come here legally. There's only one way to come here legally. Really. Everybody's an immigrant. When you come to this country, you're an immigrant. There is nothing about that. And the other lie that he was saying is that inflation is back. Inflation is back. And under Biden, it was destroyed, and he fixed it. But that's another lie, because inflation was excellent under Biden. And come to think of it, we didn't have any tariffs either. When things go high, economy is not great. He said the economy is roaring like never before, yet federal estimates show real GDP growth in 2025 slowed to 2.2. The unemployment rate has also increased slightly under Trump. Then came prices. Trump said prices are plummeting downward because of his policies. Inflation has declined from its peak. Slower inflation is not the same. he declared that more Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. Technically, yes. However, it ignores population growth and job growth so last year. On healthcare, Trump said Americans will now pay the lowest prices anywhere in the world for drugs. While negotiations over prices for some specific drugs in certain cases, there is no evidence of a broad nationwide drop in prescription drug costs. And by the way, he says he got prescription drug prices down by 1,500%. 1,500%, which is mathematically impossible. And I stink in math, but I can tell you, nothing can go past 100%. And if you get it down to 100%, that essentially means you're getting it for free. But you cannot get drug prices down by 1,500%. It is mathematically impossible. So when he says he got the drug prices down by 1,500%, he's making that up off the top of his head because it is mathematically impossible no matter how many times you try to do the numbers. Trump also repeated his claim that he secured more than $18 trillion in global investment commitments in 12 months. It's been widely questioned, and it also lacks full public documentation to support the scale he described. He also brought up the border security, and that the deadly fentanyl across the border is down by a record 56% in 1 year. But as usual, he didn't provide any data to verify this, so we have no idea what the exact number is. And Trump, as we know, likes to randomly blurt numbers out. He also brought up gas prices. That is, gas pricing is as low as it's ever been, and in some places it's even $1, which is, again, a huge lie because $1 gas is impossible. I have never seen gas anywhere that's $1. I've never seen that. Gasoline is now below 2.36 a gallon in most states. In reality, no state's average was that low, and the nationwide average is around 2.94 per gallon. So that is also a lie. Gas is not lower. Gas is pretty much sitting where it's supposed to be right now. He continued his bullshit claim of how he ended 8 wars. A number that no one's verified, no one's substantiated. And he also said the United States obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program. There's only one problem with that. Experts have said the program was damaged, not destroyed, and Trump is now considering further military action regarding Iran's nuclear activity. Okay, so he contradicted himself. If the experts are saying it was damaged, not destroyed, but Trump is saying that the nuclear weapons program was destroyed, then how can he be considering further activity regarding the nuclear activity, right? How can he consider going into war to destroy what he already destroyed? See, he says it was destroyed. Experts say it wasn't destroyed, it was just damaged. So Trump is saying they're considering going in regarding Iran's nuclear activity. The man is telling so many lies, he doesn't even realize what he says. Because how can you go in to destroy nuclear activity when you've already destroyed it? You understand what I'm saying here? Because if it's already been destroyed, why would you consider going back into the country regarding said nuclear activity that you told the entire world was destroyed, not damaged? The experts said it was damaged, and you insisted that we destroyed their nuclear activity, that there'll be years before they can build it up again. And now you're telling the world we're going to go into Iran and destroy the nuclear activity. So which is it? Damaged or destroyed? Because if it's destroyed, what other nuclear activity is there? What are you not telling us? And then he decided to bring religion into the entire thing, which is Trump insisted he presided over a tremendous renewal of religion in America. Recent polling shows religious on military benefits. And by the way, why is the president so concerned about religion? Religion is in the Constitution. Freedom of religion. Who cares? If I want to study religion, I'll study religion. If I don't want to study religion, I don't have to study religion. Who really cares? Why is it so important to him about religion? Is he trying to preach to Christian nationalists? Is he trying to placate the The Jews? Is he trying to placate, the Catholics? Who is he trying to make happy here? Religion isn't a priority. No administration, to my knowledge, has ever made religion an agenda. Okay? Everybody is free to practice their religion in any way they choose. Doesn't matter if you like it or not, but I have a right. That shouldn't be his agenda. That shouldn't be on his radar. On the military, he said $1,726 warrior dividend bonus checks were paid from tariff revenue. Okay. In reality, these funds came from a reallocation originally earmarked for increased housing allowance. So he lied about the military too. And on immigration, this is where he attacked the most. He went on a racist rant on immigration, where he repeated the claims that immigrants came from prisons, mental institutions, and that the Biden administration allowed in 11,888 murders, except they lack any evidence in any official data capacity. And also, 11,888 murders? Where did he get that number from? This is the same guy who told, in Georgia, I know you have 11,775 unaccounted votes, and you need to find them. Like, where is he getting these numbers from? And FYI, wasn't this the same person who pardoned every single January 6th from prison? Isn't this the same person who released all of these people from prison and pardoned them? Isn't this the same person who's pardoning drug dealers? He's complaining about fentanyl coming into this country, but he's pardoning drug dealers. And he's pardoning murderers. So he's trying to justify that we are getting rid of the drug smuggling. We are getting rid of all the murder, that we have to get rid of all the murderers that Biden let in, but I'm pardoning them, so, he's trying. How dumb does he think we are? You're pardoning the very same people you're ranting about. You're pardoning the same people you're on a crusade to destroy, but you're pardoning them. Was it not Donald Trump that destroyed those ships, those suspected drug ships in the Caribbean? Was it not him that did that? But he's pardoning drug people involved in the drug industry? That's kind of like a double-edged sword, isn't it? You're trying to get rid of one thing, but putting them out on the street again so they can do it again. Like, what's the thinking behind that? What's the thinking logic behind it? I'd like to know. And by the way, not every immigrant is in prison. What about an American citizen who can be in prison? What if I was in prison? For the record, I wasn't. But what if I was in prison? Does that make me an immigrant? And just because someone's in prison doesn't make them dangerous. That's a stereotype. People can go to prison for the silliest little things. Okay? People can go to prison for the silliest little things. But that doesn't make you a bad person either. The people in January 6th, they were pardoned, they went to prison. How do you know they're not an immigrant? And how do you know that the Biden administration allowed in 11,888 murders? How do you know they were murderers? Where's your proof? Where's your source for this? You're basically taking people you don't even know and lumping them into one group, saying that every single one of them are murderers. Really? How come they can't be rapists or sex offenders or thieves, or something else? Why are they all murderers? Why are you lumping them into a category that you know nothing about? And you don't even have the evidence to back it up. So why would we take you at face value on that? And then he said about the stock market rising up since his election. However, that's a lie, because those gains were smaller than each of the last 2 years under Biden. On taxes, Trump said his signature legislation eliminated taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits for seniors. While his bill does have substantial tax breaks, they do not apply universally to every worker or senior. See, he's telling you what you want to hear, right? Without telling you the entire story. And as usual, he brings up his election claims yet again, and every single one was a lie. Trump said cheating is rampant in our elections and called for legislation to stop illegal aliens from voting. Well, first of all, calling them illegal aliens is kind of racist anyway, because I would say about 85% of this country has immigrants. But what makes you an alien? Alien is not even the correct term to call somebody. An alien is somebody like you want to call them an alien? Okay. Then let's call them what it is. UFOs. E.T. He was an alien. Alf. You remember Alf from the 80s? He was an alien. Okay? Aliens are our term for people who we don't know. But calling a human being an alien is just wrong. It's just purely wrong. Call them what they are. People who are not citizens of this country. Or anything that's better than calling them an alien. However, multiple investigations over recent years have found voter fraud to be rare, including cases involving non-citizen voting. And I'm going to repeat this again. We already have laws in place for this. Illegal immigrants cannot register to vote by any means necessary. They cannot vote. If they attempted to vote, they would likely get deported, and they know this. They cannot serve on a jury either. There is no legal way an immigrant can vote. In fact, we already have voter ID laws, and every state, and I said this in my last podcast, I said this in a podcast a while back, every state runs elections, and they all have their own rules and laws and regulations about how to do it. There is a reason why we don't have the federal government running our elections. There is a reason for that. And the Constitution very much explicitly says Congress can set the rules, but they cannot run it. And I'll say it again. And this was Live 51 on my chart. This was Live 51. Illegals can't vote. We already have voter ID laws. These Republicans applauding have no idea what the laws are. And they're all caving into this madman we call Donald J. Trump. When he's saying they're stealing the election, what he's basically saying is, I am going to steal the election. And he's openly stealing the election. Remember, he went to Fulton County and they stole all the ballot boxes from there. That was breaking state law, federal law, privacy laws. 3 laws in one. He's the one that's openly stealing the elections. Remember that. He doesn't want to be impeached. He said it himself. We need to take care of the midterm elections. Otherwise, Democrats will find a reason to impeach me. He publicly said that. And I said this in a podcast. He's just gaslighting, and he's manipulating, and he's trying to tell you Democrats are bad. And this is exactly what the MAGAs are doing in the cult. They're telling you Democrats are evil. They don't like A, B, and C, but they're only only parroting what the Fuhrer said. And then he said we have to get rid of mail-in ballots except under extreme circumstances. Well, that's Live 52. Mail-in ballots are legal and Trump has no authority to get rid of it. Only Congress can. So he can sign whatever fucking bill he wants about mail-in ballots. No state will ever. The states have no reason to go with that scheme. Okay, mail-in ballots has been around for many, many years. In fact, Donald Trump voted in a mail-in ballot when he was when he lived in Florida. Okay, the only reason why he wants to get rid of ballots is because Putin told him to. Do you remember Vladimir Putin, the dictator of Russia? Remember that? Trump's friend over there? And then because the minute Putin said, get rid of mail-in ballots, well, guess what happened? Trump decided on that same day, we have to get rid of it because there's fraud. But he hasn't proven why it's fraud, and he hasn't proven. And if there, and let's just say hypothetically, the mail-in ballots are fraud. Let's just say that there's some mail-in ballots. Okay, well, instead of getting rid of it, find a solution on how to make it better, how to improve on it. Don't take a problem and create another problem. Take a problem and try to solve that problem. Don't just say we have to get rid of it. No, we don't have to get rid of it. It's we have to get rid of it because I don't want it. Because the less people that vote, he knows damn well you take away mail-in voting, you take in mail-in balloting, and that leaves half the people who cannot vote. That leaves half the people who cannot vote. And that is exactly what he wants. Because there are people out there who can't leave their house. For whatever reason, they can't leave their house. And the only way they can vote is through absentee ballots. That's the only way they can vote. You take that away from them, you have half the population that can no longer vote, which is exactly what he wants. So you can sign with any executive order you want. But like tariffs, only Congress has the authority to change this. So, and the lie 53 was this SAVE Act is simply so Trump can control elections because of his delusions. Where he's saying, and he was talking about this in full, we must do the SAVE Act to save our elections. No, you moron. It's because you want to control the elections. You cannot make a law that's already a law. You cannot. The law's already. You want to make changes to a law? Fine, but we already have voting laws in every state, and it's Congress's job to know this. Not only is it Congress's job to know this, the congressmen that are representing their states would know what their state laws are, wouldn't they? Because if they're representing their state, if they're representing their constituents, wouldn't they know about their state's laws? Wouldn't they know what their states already have or what they need? But all of these congressmen, but all of these congressmen passed the SAVE Act. It may not have any bearing in the may not have any bearing in the Senate. May not have any bearing in the Senate. And Trump is pleading with the Senate, please vote for the SAVE Act. We need to fix elections, please. But again, time and again, and I love having these conversations with the Magites because they are too stupid to understand this. They said that there's evidence that there's fraud, and I said, okay, fine, I'll play your game. So where was the evidence when when Giuliani went to the courts to say there was rigging, and he couldn't provide evidence then? If he couldn't provide evidence then, and he did it in multiple courts at various different points in time, why would there be, if there's evidence now, where was it back then? And if your answer is, well, they were compiling the evidence and Giuliani, I'm like, okay, show me the evidence. But Magites can't show the evidence because they know there's no evidence. They know there's no evidence. They're just believing whatever their cult master is telling them to. And the funny thing is that nobody had this issue. Until Donald Trump came along and opened his fat trap, nobody had an issue with this. Nobody made a big deal about the elections. Nobody made a big deal about the immigrants. Nobody said Democrats were crazy people. But Donald Trump comes along, and suddenly you become stupid and ignorant. And your education goes out the window. And the people that are calling them out are the libtards, the snowflakes, the crazy ones. Why? And I said with Lie 54, Trump's gaslighting. The only person cheating with elections is Trump. We already have voter ID laws. Illegals can't register or vote. They can be deported if they try. They can't serve on a jury either. Sorry. This Save Act bullshit he's pushing hard. It's simply his delusions, thinking the elections are rigged when it's been proven that it's not. And you cannot tell this to any single person who's a follower of Trump because they don't believe you. They are convinced that it's rigged. And I had this conversation with my friend earlier when we were outside, who said, and he was talking about that he can go and vote and then come back and then say and vote for somebody named, for his mother or his sister. And I'm like, you can't, because if you try to vote twice, they will arrest you for fraud. They're like, well, how would they know? I said, because you don't look like an Esther. You certainly look like a Maria or a Samantha, or a Danielle. You don't look like any one of that because they're going to show it on the list. They're going to show it on the list. And when you go to vote, I don't have to show my ID because I've already registered to vote. When you sign up to get a driver's license or a state ID, when you turn 18, you register. It asks you, do you want to register to vote? When you're getting a license, it's asking you, would you like to register to vote? Or when you're doing your, you can say yes or no. It's very simple. And when you go to the election booth, when you go to the voting booths, and you sign in, they ask, what's your name? They have a list of people, and they see your name on there. And if you're registered to vote, you get a letter in the mail telling you where your voting place is, where your district to vote is, and you go. If you're not registered to vote, you don't get any information, so you're not going to know where to go. But these voting laws have been around for years and years and years and years. And no president in my lifetime has ever said the election is rigged. No president has ever said Democrats are stealing the election, or Republicans for that matter. Not one president has ever said that. And okay, if the election is being rigged, or the election was stolen, or people are cheating, fine. I'll give you that. It's highly possible that that's happening. But where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? And how can we fix it? But it's not up to the federal government to decide on how to do it. It's up to the state, because each state has their own laws regarding elections. And that is by design. So what's valid in New York isn't going to be valid in Massachusetts. What's valid in Texas isn't going to be valid in, say, Wyoming, and vice versa, because every state is going to. I can't vote in Massachusetts if I'm registered to vote in New York. That is illegal. But I could be in Florida and vote as a New Yorker by absentee ballot. That is why mail-in balloting is important, because every vote counts. How would the military vote if you get rid of mail-in ballots? How would the military vote? If they're overseas, how are they voting without mail-in ballots? Explain that to me. You can't do it online for obvious reasons. So how would they vote? So if I'm in Florida, or if I'm on vacation, in the Caribbean, or in Texas, or in Wyoming, I can still vote. It's called a mail-in ballot. I can vote early, by early voting. I just have to, but here's the kicker: you have to request it from your state, from your state's elections. That's the only way to get an absentee ballot. You have to go online and you have to request it, and they will mail it to you in the mail. Okay, and you take it with you. You fill it out and you mail it back. That's how it works. And by law, they are not allowed to open the mail-in ballots until election day. Not only that, those are the last things they open after every vote has been counted from the polls. from the machines. After all those ballots are counted, then they take the ones that were mailed in, they open it up, and they add that count to what's already been counted. And that is how this works. So don't tell me that mail-in ballots are illegal and are fraudulent. Because the only way to get those ballots is through the state. And you have to request it. And somebody who isn't registered to vote isn't going to know that they have to do that. Because the only way to get the mail-in ballots is through the state. And again, this is my right as an American. This is my right. Every American has the right to vote any way they want. If I want to be if I want an absentee ballot, that's my right. If I want to go to the polls, that's my right. If I don't want to vote at all, that's my right as an American. Nobody's going to tell me how to vote. No American is going to tell me how I must vote or else. No, as an American, I have a right to vote any way I damn well please. You don't like it? Tough shit. That's the Constitution for you. That's the beauty of the Constitution, that it lets me, as an American, choose how I want to live my life. It allows me to vote any way I want, as long as I'm registered in that state. Okay? As an American, I have a right to say whatever the fuck I want. You don't like it? Tough shit. That's the beauty of the First Amendment. It allows me to speak my mind freely without having to worry about the consequences. Okay? Freedom of the press. They have a right to write whatever they want. You don't like it? Well, again, no one consults with you. Thomas Jefferson didn't consult with you when they were writing the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Constitution, and what was his thought process? That I don't know. But he was very clear on the Constitution. And the founding fathers were very, very smart. They thought of everything. Even the dictator we call Donald Trump. They thought of everything. And the Constitution is a solid binding. And, and just because you don't like it, well, that doesn't mean anything. We still have laws of this country. The Supreme Court said tariffs are illegal and unconstitutional, and you have to end it. And when you're telling the judges, "Fuck you," you made the wrong decision, and you should be embarrassed. That's not a president. That's a dictator. That's an authoritarian who doesn't like laws. But to tell the judges you made the wrong decision and that you should be embarrassment to your family, and people are okay with this? So what you're saying is that you know the law better than these educated judges? And if that's the case, you go on in that case, you put on your black robe, you sit in the Supreme Court, and you start writing the law. How's that? If you think you know better, then you start making rulings. And that's what's great about this country. The Constitution is basically what this country stands for. Without the Constitution, we'll have no laws, we have no checks and balances, and we can just do whatever the hell we want. And if we did that, we wouldn't be able to survive. Trust me on that. Because the Constitution is what keeps this country going. And what keeps us keeps us citizens safe and respected. Going back on this, he was talking about Melania, how Melania's movie star because her movie was a big hit. That was Live 57. She's not a movie star, never will be, and isn't contributing to anything. worthwhile. And in fact, she doesn't even live in the White House. Is that a big deal? I don't think so, but still. And then he made some. Then he started making some bullshit story about people transitioning, about how the states are taking boys and girls and turning them into the opposite genders and things like that. And I'm trying to figure out, is this guy on fucking crack or what the hell is he drinking? Because absolutely no state is ripping people from homes and transitioning them. That is absolutely, by that definition, that means half of us would be the opposite gender. Half of us would be, transvestites or, transgender. I'm sorry. I don't want to say that word. Okay. If that's the case, then my name would be turned into Marcy or Alana, for my middle name. So that is absolutely bullshit in the most strangest form. And the fact that people are fucking believing this bullshit nonsense that has no basis in reality is beyond me. Also, that's called kidnapping, really. Are we just because the administration has resorted to kidnapping its own citizens, mind you, doesn't mean states are going to do it, let alone blue states. I mean, that is absolutely just asinine. And yes, he's saying this with no shame whatsoever. And Republicans are, yay, woohoo! No, they're applauding because they're so brainwashed into the scheme that they have to please their master because they care more about their political career than they do about the actual people who got them where they are, which is the constituents, which is the people like you and I who voted them in. But no, we got to please the master because we care more about our political career than we care about our constituents, who got us here in the first place. But here's the thing. Constituents will remember this. When it comes to the midterms, they're going to say, you're fired. And they will pick somebody else because we don't forget. We don't forget. You took away our health care? Yeah, we're not going to forget that. You took away our SNAP? We're not going to forget that. You took away everything from us? Yeah, we're not going to forget that either. No, we're not going to forget anything. You brought ICE to our city and our states? No, we're not going to forget that. We're going to vote you out of office. So yeah, continue bowing down to the dictator. Continue bowing down. But it's not going to help because you know what? Because comes November, you're going to lose the House. You're going to lose the House. And that's going to be the end of your political career. And then he said another bullshit lie that has no basis in reality, saying Democrats are evil people. They're destroying the country. Every time I try to do something, they try to get in the way. They don't want to pass this bill. They don't pass this bill. They don't put America first. They'd rather put the immigrants first and never. It's like, no, you're gaslighting. Democrats are destroying this country. Donald Trump and his administration is, with all of these bullshit things that they're making up. No, Democrats are not destroying the country. In fact, Democrats are the opposite. They're trying to save this country. They're trying to get to the bottom. They're the ones who want to hold the hearings. They're the ones who want to hold people like Christina and Pam Bondi accountable. They want to know why Kash Patel is taking joyrides to the Olympics instead of investing, or why he's taking a plane on taxpayers' dime to protect his girlfriend. That's what they want to know. Republicans don't give a shit. Republicans, when the Qatar gave the plane to Trump, which was unethical and against the Constitution, Republicans were like, well, he's going to use it for his Trump library, so it's not a big deal. Oh, he's going to transfer to Air Force One. That's not a big deal. Democrats, we need an investigation. This is highly unethical. We don't know how do we know that the Qatar didn't put any spy equipment on this plane? Why is he accepting a $40 billion bribe? This is against the Constitution, against the annulments clause. But Republicans, if Trump got it as a gift and he's going to use it for Air Force One, so it's going to be used for something. Are you, it's like you guys are in Congress. You're supposed to keep the president in check. You're not supposed to be enabling him. Most of what Trump is doing is because you shits in Congress aren't doing your fucking job. And if you were doing your fucking job, we wouldn't be where we are today. But you have a person like Mike Johnson, who's Trump's bitch, who's like, we can't vote on this. We got to vote on this. No. The same guy who decided that he couldn't swear in the Democrat from Arizona because she was the vote that she was the one remaining vote to vote yes on the Epstein files being released. And then he came up with some bullshit story why she can't be nominated. Why she can't be sworn in, which is a bullshit lie because he had no problem swearing in a Republican during the last shutdown. He had no problems with that. But because she was a Democrat, and because she was going to be the deciding factor for the Epstein files being released, he came up with the stories, well, we can't do this during the shutdown, and we're ready to, and she can do her work regardless of her being sworn in. No, she can't. Because if she's not legally a congresswoman yet, it's like the president-elect. If I won the presidency today, I can't do my job. I'm not the president. I haven't been sworn in. I can pick a cabinet. I can get the Secret Service, but I can't sign any executive orders. I can't do anything. I am only the president-elect because we still have a president in office. So how can I do work that I'm not legally allowed to do? I haven't been sworn in. I'm not a congressman. I'm congressman-elect. I'm senator-elect. I'm president-elect. I can't be sworn. I can't do a job I'm not legally allowed to do if I wasn't sworn in. So all of this, I blame Mike Johnson because Mike Johnson is an ass licker. He's Trump's bitch. Trump says, how high? He goes, yes, master. How high would you like me to go? Trump tells Johnson, you should vote on this bill. Yes, master. Right away. I'll vote. Trump, you shouldn't vote on this bill because it's what Democrats want. Yes, master. I won't vote on this bill, whatever you say. And it's really sad because the president should not be controlling Congress. That is why you have a Speaker of the House. Because if Nancy Pelosi was still the president, was still the Speaker of the House, she would not take any of this crap from Trump. And she would be putting Trump in his place. And she was there last night, and Trump made it a point to drop her name out there. And so I blame Mike Johnson for all of this. Because all Mike Johnson had to say was, no, Mr. President, I am in charge of the House, not you. I decide what is voted on. I decide what goes on. And I decide what's wrong and what's right, not you. But instead, we have an ass licker who's Trump's bitch, who's not only doing Trump's bidding, but is also gaslighting. Like last night, he said, the best speech I've ever, the president gave the best speech of anybody ever. Okay. Nobody thinks so, but okay. You can go knock yourself out if you want to say that. And he was also saying he's taking credit for religion coming back to this country. Religion never left, and that's not even a thing. Religion doesn't leave. Religion is a personal thing, by the way. Not everybody, as a Jewish person, I can tell you from firsthand, everybody is religious in their own way. And there are many types of Judaism. There's Orthodox Judaism, which is, the full-on, where you're observant on everything, Shabbat and all of these other things. Then you have the conservative Jews, the Reform Jews, then you have the Chabad Jews and everything. And you have, the Reform Jews, which is the women rabbis. And you have, girls that get bat mitzvah and read from the Torah, where Orthodox Jews, the women don't do that at all. They have the bat mitzvah, but they don't read from the Torah at all. So you have many types of Jews. And I don't have to and none of us have to explain our religious level to anybody because it's a personal thing. It's a private thing. If somebody doesn't want to be religious anymore, they don't have to explain why. They can, but they don't have to, and it's nobody's business. And the fact that you're bringing religion back and you're bragging about that, there's something mentally wrong with you. Because religion has been in this country before you and I ever existed. Religion has been around longer than America existed. And it's going to be here when we're all long gone. It's just a matter of, do people practice in public? And they don't have to. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's left. It means to them, religion is a personal thing, it's a private thing, and they can do religion. They can practice their religion in any way they want, in any shape they want, and anywhere they want at any time. Who are you to tell people, oh, well, I'm bringing religion back? Fuck you. You're bringing religion back. No, you're not bringing religion back because religion was always here and will always be here. And let me ask you something, Donald Trump. Are you a religious person? Do you practice religion? Do you believe in God? Because if you do, then I can assure you you're going to hell. So, and then he started going on how Charlie Kirk died a martyr and all of this. Like, no, you don't die a martyr. You make somebody a martyr. You don't die a martyr. And then he tried to say how Democrats keep, and then the other lie he was saying, which was lie 60 on my sheet, was that Democrats are responsible for the crime because they keep letting people out of prison and jails, and all of this problem is coming from the blue states because we have people like Governor Newsom and Governor Hochul, and all these people are letting all these. No, you fucking moron! You pardon all of them. You're the one pardoning them. Democrats have nothing to do with this. You pardon every single J6 person. And you know what? Many of these J6 people have gotten rearrested for other crimes they committed since you released them. And I'm also not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the J6 people you pardon are under your secret Gestapo police, aka the ICE agents. So you're trying to. So you think America's stupid. We don't know. You're pardoning all these people, but you're blaming the Democrats for all of this. How does that make any sense? You are the president. You have the power to pardon. People like you, people like me, don't have any power to pardon anybody. A senator, a congressman, have no power to pardon anybody. That's why, before the presidents leave office, the last act they do before they leave office is pardon people. But they pardon people after they've thought long and hard about why they should be pardoned and who should be pardoned. They don't just pardon random people because they want to. They think long and hard about it. And you keep pardoning them. And you even said, I'm considering pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. Why? You pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, and that's a big F you to every single Epstein survivor. And instead of trying to heal their wounds, you're basically saying, I don't give a fuck about you. Ghislaine Maxwell, I care more about me because she has leverage she's going to use against me if I don't pardon her, and I don't want that, so fuck you, survivors. This is about me. That's why he would pardon Maxwell, to keep her quiet. He doesn't give a shit about the survivors. In fact, when the survivors were brave enough to go outside Capitol Hill and become public, when they shouldn't have to do that, you know what Trump said? Oh, it's a hoax. They're lying. Are you, like, mentally retarded or something? And he keeps calling all these murderers and rapists deranged monsters. No one speaks like this. No one calls a murderer a deranged monster. Maybe they'll call him a monster depending on how gruesome or heinous the crime was. But no one is a deranged monster, and calling somebody a deranged monster is basically basic human decency. That's all I'm saying. And he was talking about how all these murders again, and again, about how these morons should be behind bars. And I was like, they are behind bars. You pardoned every single one of those monsters from January 6th. It was you who pardoned them because you want them to fight like hell. Remember that speech? You said fight like hell? And every Republican knows about J6 because they're trying to rewrite it as it was a peaceful protest. Nothing happened. It's the Democrats that did it. And the license too was, I love this one, where he says Washington D.C. was crime ridden and everything was bad until I fixed it by bringing in the National Guard. No, you buffoon. D.C. was always safe. So was every other state. You manufactured all of these. Trump manufactured these crimes. You know why? Because it was a distraction. And then you know what happened? Because then he can go in and he can say, and he can go in and say, see, I was right. We have crime in the city. Look, they're protesting. They're killing people. See, I did what I had to do to bring him in. He's trying to manufacture a crime and then take credit for it by proving by gaslighting people, saying, see, there's crime. No, DC was safe. And Lie 63, there was little to no crime in DC, and there are stats to back that up. So, what crime was he referring to? Because I've been to DC on 3 different occasions, and I felt safe every time. I went out at night. There were no problems. People were frolicking. People were sitting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. People were walking around the water by the reflecting pool. People were just walking around, biking. There was no crime. On 3 separate occasions that I went to DC, there was no crime. I walked outside. It was pretty safe. I had my wallet out in my hand. Nobody robbed me. People actually left me alone. So I don't know where he was getting his facts from. DC has no crime. Did I say that every state has no crime? No, there's crime everywhere. But that's why we have police forces. That's why we have a police. And he keeps calling them monsters. He keeps saying monsters. But these monsters are still people. And these monsters are still people. The only monster I can think of is Donald Trump. He's the only cool person. And then he says, New York City isn't a communist city. And he's like, but I want to get back to that and say, but I'll get back to that because I wrote back in later. He brought up the 8 wars again, which is really impossible. And I've said this in a previous podcast. It's impossible, which brings us to Lie 67, which is he's making up stories about non-existent wars. Now, I know history. And I can tell you firsthand my history. I can tell you why that what wars happened in my lifetime that I don't know about. And by the way, Lie 68, conflicts are not wars. And some are just some are just geographically impossible. Okay? Conflicts and wars are not the same. If that's the case, we don't be at war. Because if I have a conflict with my friend, does that mean I'm in war? If I smack her up, or I smack him up, does that mean I'm at war with them because we're fighting? No, we have a conflict of interest. And we're going to agree to disagree. Does that mean we're at war? Conflicts and wars are not the same. And whatever he's talking about with these countries that he's resolving, some of them are just geographically impossible because some of them aren't even near each other. So how can you be at war with a country that you're not even near? How can you be in conflict with a country that's not even close to you? You see what I'm saying? Trump says he negotiated the wars to get the people home from October 7th, the hostages. Incorrect. Lie 70, Biden negotiated the hostages. Trump redid the ceasefire simply to get the credit. Because before Biden left office, they already negotiated a 3-step plan. They had negotiated a 3-step plan. And everything is great. Trump comes to office, let's negotiate. Simply because he wants to take credit for it, because he wants to look good in the eyes of the Jews. And you know what? I'm not giving you the credit for that. I'm never going to give you the credit for that because that credit goes to President Biden because he successfully negotiated that deal. There was no reason for you. In fact, I believe you fucked up that deal. I believe that Donald Trump fucked up the deal that Joe Biden already had made simply because Donald Trump is a petty man who needs credit for everything because it's me, I. And I truly believe he fucked it up because I believe that had he left it well enough alone and respected the fact that President Biden had negotiated a plan, more hostages would have came home sooner, and many would still be alive. So I believe that Trump's ego got the best of him, and he fucked it up really well. And then he was talking about another war, some ninth war that he was blabbing on about, and I'm like, there's a ninth war now. And he's talking about, if I was president my first term, the war in Ukraine would never have happened. Something that he's been bitching about for a while now. He's been saying this for quite some time. And that was lie 72. The Ukraine war would have happened without you. Once again, President Biden had absolutely nothing to do with it. He kept saying the war in Ukraine happened because of President Biden. Okay, fine. What would be his motive for starting the war in Ukraine? What would President Biden have a motive to start a war in Ukraine, let alone with Russia? Why couldn't he start a war with, say, I don't know, Iraq or Afghanistan or Turkey or India? Why would he start a war with Ukraine? What would be his motive? And a president, and again, a president cannot declare war. Only Congress can. A president can suggest it. A president can go to Congress and suggest it. But a president cannot declare war at all. So the fact that you say President Biden started a war with Ukraine is just inaccurate, asinine, but again, the Ukraine war would have happened without you. Once again, President Biden has absolutely nothing to do with it, and Putin started the war. And Putin doesn't want this war to end. Don't you get it? They keep saying, we're going to find peace with Russia. Don't you get it? Don't you get it? Putin will end the war when he gets what he wants. And what he wants is Ukraine. That's what this whole thing is about. He can care less. He doesn't want peace. He only wants peace after he gets what he wants, which is Ukraine. And Donald Trump is too stupid to realize that. Because Putin is his friend, and he's going to give his friend whatever he wants. And then we talk about how, and this goes back to, and licensing was back to what I said earlier about his claim that he destroyed the nuclear facilities in Iran. But if he destroyed it, then why does he have to go back there to deal with it again? So they have facilities all over. Some of them aren't even hidden. Some of them aren't even in Iran. And then Elijah 24 was, I fixed the military. Without me, the military was broke. It was weak. President Biden didn't care. And Obama, we didn't have a military. And I came in and I fixed it. First of all, no one likes a big shot, so fuck you on that part. Number one. Number two, if the military was broken, then how the hell did Obama capture Osama bin Laden? Yes, that happened on his watch. Okay. How did we get out of Afghanistan? Okay. You did not, and how would you rebuild the military? By firing qualified generals to bring in your loyalists who most likely aren't qualified? The military was never broken. You did not fix it. Okay? Because if you're saying Obama didn't care about the military and Biden didn't care about the military, okay, fine. Then who killed Saddam Hussein? That was under Bush, but still, who killed Osama? And if I recall correctly, Obama addressed the nation saying that the operation was a success, done in secret. So if our military was broken, then wouldn't we have been invaded? Wouldn't the military be destroyed? Because we have no military. If the military is broken, that means everybody's inept, right? And they don't know what the hell they're doing, and so you come in and fix it, right? No, you idiot. The military was never broken. It wasn't broken, and you didn't fix it. And here's the lie of something. Countries are paying through the roof for our tariffs, our wonderful tariffs, and we're making money now, and we shouldn't get punished anymore. Nope, not true. Companies didn't agree to pay anything extra than they already have to pay. Companies are not, okay, it doesn't work like that. Okay, and they're not going to pay that tariffs anymore because since the Supreme Court ruled it illegal, they're no longer obligated to pay those tariffs. In fact, they're going to want the refunds. And one company already started the process of suing the administration to get that money back. And speaking of the military, he says the military is great. Everybody wants to join the military now, and recruitment is high. No, it's not. Morale is low, and nobody wants to be in the military right now. And morale is low. Nobody wants to join the military. Okay, and then he says in lie 79 that I have, and I'm skipping around. Lie 79, he's saying fentanyl is used as a weapons of mass destruction. No, it's not. No, it's not. In fact, I don't know one person in this country that's dealing with fentanyl and selling it. You want to tell me we have a drug problem with marijuana? Okay. Cocaine? Okay. Uh, meth? Meth? Okay. You could say that's meth labs. You could say that's a problem. I'll give you that one. But fentanyl? No. And by the way, most drugs today have some sort of fentanyl in it, but they are a controlled substance. Some Tylenol that I have right here has some phenol in it, but has a little bit, and it's controlled. Whatever phenol is coming in here is for controlled substances. So let me ask you a question: if fentanyl is used as a weapons of mass destruction, explain to me the process. How does fentanyl work as a weapons of mass destruction? What is the damage that it can do? And has it ever been used as a weapons of mass destruction? Okay, and who knows how to do that? Okay, so if you're going to say fentanyl is used as a weapons of mass destruction, okay, fine. Who is making this weapon? What are they using it for? How come we've never heard about it? How come we've never seen it on the news? How come we've never read about it? How come we don't know who's doing it? What is the weapon? Is it harmless? Is it dangerous? So if you're going to lie, at least make the lie plausible. Otherwise, you have no credibility. Okay? And then lie A, saying, well, in America, we're smuggling in boatloads of drugs. No, we're not. We have never, ever done that. Why would the only drugs that we're smuggling in are the ones that are controlled? Again, ones that are sold in pharmacies, ones that doctors prescribe. That's what's coming in here. Tylenol, Advil, Flonase, Sudafed, Robitussin, all of these, whatever they call them, medical terms. Okay, nobody is nobody in America is smuggling in drugs. So that is basically a freaking lie. And by the way, if you're smuggling the drugs, didn't you destroy them? Didn't you destroy in the Caribbean? Didn't you destroy all of these boats that you suspected were smuggling in drugs? Remember, Pete Esquiff didn't want to release the videos of this. Do you not remember that? And when people were asking you why he wouldn't release the videos, you gave up some BS of an answer. Do you not remember this? So, if America was smuggling drugs, didn't you resolve that problem? America is not in the smuggling business. And by the way, you're America. The federal government is America. So anything, you're the one that will be smuggling in the drugs, asshole. Not anybody else particularly. And by the way, lie 81, when he says people are praising him for the good job he's done. Yeah, only his fellow dictators are praising him. People like Putin, Orban, Kim Jong-un, all of these, in China, all those are the only people are praising him. Everybody else, no, we're alienated. They don't want anything to do with us. Greenland, Canada, France, the European Union, nobody, no one's praising Trump. They all think he's a moron. They all think he's stupid. Governor Newsom, he's outspoken. No one's praising Trump. That's his ego talking. And then he's talking about his Space Force. He started the Space Force and he's very proud of it. No, you idiot. Again, here we go. Space Force equals NASA. Something that has existed for years. Okay, there is no Space Force. You want a Space Force? Okay. Are we living in Star Trek? Is there a Federation? Is there a Starfleet? No, there isn't a Starfleet. And there's no Space Force. Nobody's calling it Space Force. They've been calling it NASA. They've been calling it NASA. Since NASA started, they've been calling it NASA. No one's been calling it Space Force. There is no Space Force. There is no spacemen. We call them astronauts, and we call it NASA. Call it whatever the fuck you like, but it's still NASA. Call the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, however you like. It's still the Gulf of Mexico, okay? And that's what it's always going to be. So call it whatever the fuck you like, but Space Force is NASA. And then he talks about Venezuela, how he got Maduro. Great, except for one problem. The invasion was illegal, and you don't have the authority to install a president there, especially since there was already somebody next in line. So that's just BS. And then he was talking about, and by the way, the oil in Venezuela you took, that's not for America. That oil, you're pocketing that money. And then he was talking about how they renamed Fort, they took the name, they got Fort Bragg, and they named it, and they said, Democrats love changing the names. And we changed it back to Fort Bragg because Democrats love changing their names. No, you asshole! Once again, no one wanted to change it, and he goes, they want us to change it back to Fort Bragg. I'm like, no, you idiots! Democrats did change your names. All of these forts have specific names for a reason. Do you really think the public cares what you call the name? Or do you really think they take a poll with Americans and say, we want to name this fort S so and so? Do you think it should be A, this one, B, this one, C, this one? They don't do that. Forts are named. Forts are given names. Forts are given specific names for a reason. So Donald Trump saying we changed it back because the Democrats didn't like the original name. No, you idiot! Democrats didn't change the name. Nobody wanted you to change it back. No one asked you to change it back, and no one really cared. Really, no one really cared. And then, for some odd reason, he turned the State of the Union into some award show. Towards the end, he started giving out awards as if this was some sort of a game show. And I will give him credit for recognizing people in the military, and give them awards. However, that being said, last night was not the appropriate place to do it. You want to give them the Medal of Freedom, you want to give them the Purple Heart, fine. I'm all for it. Congratulations to those winners. But the State of the Union was not the appropriate place or time to do that. He turned the State of the Union into an award show towards the end. And then, of course, he managed to make it about himself when he said he would give himself one. But they tell me I'm not to give it to myself, so maybe somebody else could give it to me. Surprise, surprise, he made it about himself. And why would you give it to yourself? And then he also took credit. I don't know where he got this from, but he started talking about how the Olympics are going to be in the United States next year in 28, and the World Cup is going to be in America. And he was taking credit for that. And I don't understand. The Olympics being chosen in LA have nothing to do with him. Neither does the World Cup. Does he not understand that these are awarded years in advance on purpose because countries and cities need the time to build the infrastructure and to prepare and everything? Does he not realize that states and countries need to deal with the infrastructure, the security, and everything? But he's taking credit for something that he had absolutely nothing to do with. He had nothing to do with the World Cup coming to America. He had nothing to do with the Olympics coming to LA or Utah, for that matter. So that's another bullshit lie he's made. He has nothing to do with it, but he's taking credit. And that's just a low blow. He is petty, and he is cruel, and he feels he needs to involve himself in every little aspect and then give himself credit for something that he didn't do. If that's the case, I want to take credit. For the cleanup of the snow we have in New York. The snow is, it's like it never snowed because the snow is clean. I want to take credit for it. I had nothing to do with it, but I want to take credit for it because the snow is cleaned up and the streets are clear now. And yes, I did it. I didn't, but I won't take credit for it. Why? Because I feel better about myself. That's why. No. Why would I take credit for something I didn't do and take it away from the person who actually does deserve it? If the person, if someone else deserves it, why take it away from them and give it to yourself instead? That's just you being a dick. And the other thing I want is when I went back earlier was New York City isn't communist city. Mamdani said, bring your IDs. So somebody wrote, to register to shovel snow in Mamdani's New York City, you must present 2 forms of ID plus a social security card. Okay. And yes, Mamdani did say that. Somebody wrote, that's because they pay you, you fucking idiot. And he's right, because here's the thing. How are you going to get paid? Has none of you ever done onboarding before? The lies really that come out of this deranged, delusional, egotistical narcissist is beyond me. Mamdani is saying, bring your ID and your social security card when you shovel the snow because you're going to get paid legally. How do you, when you go to work, when you do your onboarding, how do you do your I-9s? Do they magically appear? How are they going to pay you if they have no information? If you're doing direct deposit, they don't know your address. You're getting paid on the books, right? An I-9, right? How are they supposed to report their taxes? They need your social security number because, for taxes. They need your passport because they have to verify who you are. And they have to make sure it's not fake. So these people are stupid. Say, see, even Mamdani is telling, Mamdani is a communist. New York City is a communist country because Mamdani is telling you to bring your social security and your ID to shovel stone. So why should we have to do that if we don't have to do it for voting? Because you're going to get paid, you fucking moron. It's like people go to school and they suddenly forgot, and people go to their jobs and they forgot how they did their onboarding. I don't know about you, but when I go to onboarding, they need your passport. They need a passport to put you into the system. They need a social security card to make sure you are legal. It's either a social security card or a green card. I have to go somewhere tomorrow. That's federal. They told me bring 2 forms of ID, but if you have a passport, that's good enough. So that was lie 85 by my account. And this morning, neither lawmakers were praising the speech. One even went to say, this is a master class and this is how you give a speech. And Laura Ingram from Fox, who's not the brightest in the shed either, said, years from now, historians will look back at the speech and saying how they learned a lot from the master. It's obvious that these members of Congress serve one person. They abdicated their duty, abandoned their constituents, and violated their oath. They have officially proved that they serve only one person and one person only. I'm a proud Democrat. I'm a proud American. I do not recognize this government except the Democrats in Congress who have morals. I don't know what these brainwashed MAGA cultists were watching last night, but it sure as hell wasn't a State of the Union. And this is really, something that was basically not a State of the Union. This was basically rants, attacks, shouting matches, and for some odd reason, an award show. And, there's a lot I can do here. But a lot of the things I didn't mention because I couldn't really follow along a lot. But on crime, Trump claimed he inherited rampant crime at home and later boasted that last year saw the largest single decline in the murder rate. Crime had already been trending downward since 2022, years before he took office. He also stretched it on energy and oil. But before he returned to office, production was already at record levels. At every turn, the address leaned in sweeping claims that either left out key context or overstated the numbers. The speech had applause lines and confidence, but once you line up with that accent of rhetoric, that's where it gets more complicated. So that is basically, it was basically a speech filled with nothing but lies. Nobody learned anything from this. He already repeated all these claims. These were claims that people already knew about. He was just repeating it. 95 minutes of pure crap, pure garbage, and really, he's facing the lowest approval ratings of his career. You can see why he's trying to embellish that by saying that the Democrats are playing with the poll numbers because they hate him and they have Trump deranged syndrome. He can't face the reality. He was attacking before. He attacked everybody, everything. And then he wonders why the Republicans are losing in the House because, people are tired of, they're not happy about the high prices that Trump promised he would tackle. Trump claimed falsely that prices were dropping and falling and insisted that the blame for high prices fell on his predecessor, Joe Biden, and his Democrats. They said the same people in his chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly used the word affordability, a word somebody gave it to him, knowing full well that they caused and created increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. Affordability is a good word. He mentioned how he got rid of DEI, and everybody was applauding that. We'll just go show you the racism that seeped into our government, because DEI is a good thing. It's diversity, inclusion. I forgot what the word E was, but it was basically they weren't discriminating against anybody. And he's proud he got rid of DEI. He's proud that and if you notice, everybody in his administration is white. There's not one black person in his administration, at least that you publicly see. And that's by design. Because Donald Trump is a racist and it's in Congress. Because when he said he got rid of DEI, every Republican clapped. And they're all angry that none of the Democrats clapped at all, that they didn't applaud and they didn't stand and they didn't show any respect. And I'm like, why should they clap and respect for a bunch of lies? Why should I respect a man who can't tell the truth? Why would I clap for that? If I don't respect you, why would I clap? Why would I praise you? If I don't respect you, why would I clap? Why would I get up? You want to tell a lie? Okay. I don't have to acknowledge that lie. I don't have to clap. You want to be a racist? By all means, be the racist. I don't need to acknowledge that. You want to be a bigot? Be a bigot. I don't have to acknowledge that. And if the Republicans are too stupid to understand why the Democrats aren't getting up to applaud, then they're just as bad. The Democrats aren't evil. It's just a projection. It's deflecting. Because they know Trump is a failure. Republicans know Trump is a failure, but they don't want to admit to it. They don't want to admit to it because they look up to this person like he's a god. They look up to him like he's the second coming of Jesus Christ, which in itself is idol worshiping, but that's a different topic altogether. But Trump is not the second coming. Trump is not a god. Trump is a vile, evil, disgusting human being. And the fact that people voted for him, I don't understand. Everything that Trump said he was going to do while he was on his campaign, he didn't do. He says he got the prices of eggs down. No, he didn't. He said he got the prices of meats and dairies down. No, he didn't. If anything, it's going up, not down. Again, and he brought in the Olympic hockey team, talking about how the Democrats are cheating, that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. He was actually projecting. Because Trump was basically saying the only way I could win is if I cheat. But I don't want you to know that, so I'm going to pin it onto the Democrats. But read between the lines. When Donald Trump blames the Democrats for everything that's going on in this country, believe the opposite. What he's basically saying is, I'm a failure, everything is on me. I'm cheating in the elections because I want to win, because I'm a loser and I hate losing. I don't want to be seen as a failure because then I can be seen as weak. So I'm going to blame it on the Democrats so people can praise me and say I'm doing a hell of a good job. That's what you have to understand. Psychologically, you're blaming the Democrats for your own failures. You're blaming the you're telling the Democrats they're cheating in the elections because you are a loser and you don't want to be a loser and you don't want to be seen as weak. But you are the failure. You are the loser. Using projections to put on anybody else isn't really going to help. Projecting us Democrats, we know better. As Democrats, we know the truth. We know you're an asshole. We know you're a pathological liar. We know you're a failure. We know you're a loser. But you want to put on to us and have your base call us Democrats are evil, Democrats are destroying this country, and we're Democrats. You want to say that? Your followers, your base can say whatever the fuck they want. But we know the truth. Donald Trump is a fucking failure. He's a failure in life. He's a failure in business. He's a failure as a president. He's a failure as a human being. He's a loser. He's a cheat. He's a fraud. He's a bully. He's a fraudster. He's a con artist. He's a grifter. He's everything that's wrong with this country. He's not a human decent being. He's not a decent human being. He is not the art of the deal, my ass. He didn't even write the book, by the way. You know that? He's a racist. He's a bigot. He's a misogynist. He's a predator. He's a pedophile. He's a Pinocchio. I'm running out of adjectives for him. He blasted the Supreme Court. He actually said this: I used these tariffs to earn hundreds of billions of dollars to make great deals for our country, both economically and on a national security basis. Everything is working well. Countries are ripping us off for decades and now paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, which is also a lie because no country was ripping us off, and he couldn't even. And even if they are, he couldn't even prove it. But no president has ever complained about countries ripping us off. No country's ever done that. Every president has understood that things are manufactured outside of the United States because it's cheaper and you keep costs low. You start bringing them into this country and manufacture them here, the costs of the goods will actually go up in price. And that's economy 101. Any person with a brain knows it. You build it, you manufacture it where it's cheaper, and the costs are lower for us. That's how it works. In fact, the total amount of revenue collected under Trump's unilaterally imposed tariffs was only $175 billion, all of which were collected from America. Several recent studies found that Americans bear between 90 and 95% of the burden of tariffs. On one of his weakest issues, the violence committed by mass immigration agents in American cities, Trump did not even mention the shooting deaths of Renee Good or Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Instead, he attacked Democrats for insisting that immigration agents be reined in and not allowed to wear masks. He equated that position with support for illegal immigrants convicted of violent crimes. Excuse me. Why should they wear masks? If police don't have to wear masks, why should they? Trump wants the masks because he doesn't want these ICE agents to be held accountable for what they're doing. And he's upset because if the Democrats tell you they can't wear masks, they can easily be held accountable because we'll know who they are because pictures will be taken of them. And he doesn't want that. So he's pissed off and saying, look at that. Democrats, they don't want people to wear masks. They don't care about people's safety. But they're allowing the murderers and the rapists out there to not wear masks because Democrats actually know who's a rapist and who's a murderer. So if I go outside and I start raping people and I start murdering people, are they going to know that it's me, Mark Klein, that did the rape? The only way they can connect me to the crime is if they get DNA from the crime scene, right? That's the only way they'll find out it's me. Otherwise, how do they know it's a Democrat? Are you saying that all Republicans are good people? and that one Republican is going to commit a crime, are you basically saying that Democrats are evil and they want crime, but Republicans, we're great people. We want masks. We want to protect our people. Democrats, they don't want the masks because they want to hurt the people. They want to hurt these murderers and rapists. They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country. You should be ashamed of yourself, he told Democrats in the chamber. They're not blocking anybody, you idiot. You are now gaslighting because what they're basically saying is there's due process. It doesn't matter if you're an American citizen or if you're an illegal. It doesn't matter. Everybody has rights in this country as long as they're in this country, according to the United States Constitution. As long as you're in this country, everybody has the right to due process and everybody has rights. I don't care if you hate the person. I don't care if the person committed a crime. If that's the case, why bother having a trial? If that's the case, why bother going to court? Why bother having courts? If you don't want to try, if you don't want to due process, then get rid of the courts. It's not that they're not blocking people. It's that you're not doing it the legal way. But you're too stupid to realize that. And so you're blaming, so you're gaslighting and projecting and telling people the Democrats are evil because they're not letting us do our job by blocking people. No, you idiot. They're protecting the people because you're doing it unlawfully. You're doing it unlawfully. You need a warrant to arrest somebody. You claim ICE is law enforcement. Then follow the fucking law. If you claim you're law enforcement, then follow the fucking law. The right to due process in the Constitution. Fourth Amendment. You need a warrant. You need a search warrant to walk into someone's house or a place of business. You can't just take people. You can't just pull people from their home and demand to tell them what you want to know. You can't just arrest people just like that. You need a warrant. You can't just deport people without due process. How do you know they're a criminal? Just because they're an illegal immigrant doesn't mean they committed any crimes. How do you know? You say, oh, we're dealing with crime. We're taking them off the streets. Great. What is the crime? Is it a misdemeanor? Because for misdemeanor, you pay a small fine and have a nice day. That's it. So what crime did they commit? So no, they're not blocking you. They're trying to do the right thing. So if ICE is law enforcement and you're trying to, and if you say you're for law and order, then prove it. Because as far as I can see, you're not for law and order, and you believe that these law enforcement agents could do whatever the fuck they want. And because they're wearing masks, we don't know who they are, and they can get away with it, right? Remember Jonathan Ross? We found out who he was. Remember when a journalist mentioned his name, Christine got triggered and had a temper tantrum saying, "Don't say his name, don't say his name." Really? Is that really professional? So no, Democrats know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. All they're asking for is, we're okay with ICE, but we want reforms. What is wrong with that? We want body cameras them. We want them held accountable if they commit something they shouldn't do. If they're law enforcement, let them do the exact same thing that the police do. Police wear body cams and they have no issues with it. So why can't ICE do the same thing? Police don't wear masks. Why does ICE need to wear masks? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? With the Democrats' request? It's a simple request. It shouldn't even be a debate. It should be a conversation. It should be, yes, we understand. ICE is getting out of control. Yes, to understand. But make no mistake, when they take the House back, all of this will be reformed or disappear. He mentioned that I said earlier about Iran, so that's something. Trump withdrew in his first term from an agreement that had been negotiated under former President Barack Obama that limited Iran's ability to make weapons-grade uranium imposed on the sites. Then he boasted about his program of extrajudicial killings defined as war crimes internationally and murder in the United States for suspected drug smugglers by seas. You probably noticed that we are very seriously damaged at the fishing industry also. Nobody wants to go fishing anymore. Another lie. People go fishing. I don't, but people go fishing. On the fourth anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Trump didn't even bring it up, only to saying that he wanted to end the details, but without blaming Russia's dictator Putin for conducting the largest, deadliest war in Europe since Trump had bragged about ending U.S. military aid to Ukraine. But in the end, the newly elected Virginia's Democratic governor, Abigail Spanberger, will matter at all within a few days or even now is unclear. Americans generally have paid less attention to the event, and Trump was yet to give a joint address shorter than an hour, likely not help his case by going on for nearly 2. And I'm going to stop here, but this basically damaged Trump. This did not hurt his chances for the midterm. And he always wonders why the Republicans are losing, why they lost in November. This is why people are starting to realize who Trump really is. People are starting to realize the man that he is. People are starting to realize that he's a liar, that he's a faker, that he's deranged, that he's a lunatic, that he's crazy, that it's all about him, and that they're not better off. And I did ask that question yesterday on my Facebook, are you better off with him? Or do you feel less safe with him? And surprise, surprise, many people on my wall said yes. But these are also people who are Magites and who think he's doing a hell of a great job. But he's not. And the fact that people are starting to realize it and wake up and turn on him should tell you something. But this did not help him at all. There were no policies discussed. He had no achievements. He lied about how this Trump account for the babies. He didn't come up with the name, but he actually did come up with the name. And we talk about this Trump RX, about why presidents didn't lower price on the pharmaceuticals, and how he did it by 1,500%, and that he got the drug prices lowered, and now it's going to go through Trump RX, except for one tiny little problem. Nobody knows anything about Trump RX. Where is what's Trump RX? Who's paying for it? Where is he getting the drugs from? Where are the drugs coming from? Who's controlling it? What kind of drugs are available on there? How would prescriptions work on the Trump RX? Who is the partner? He didn't explain all that. And the reason why presidents have not dealt with drug price in the past and why haven't they gotten it down is because it has nothing to do with them. The drug industry sets the prices. The market, the industry, they're the ones who set the prices. Presidents don't get involved because it's not their job to. It's between the drugs and the FDA. That's the point. And getting it down by 1,500% is mathematically impossible. I speak in math, but even I know nothing can go past 100%. Nothing. So if you're going to get it down by 1,500%, you're essentially saying the prescription drugs are free, which basically means I can walk into my CVS and take and steal all the drugs. And when they ask me why, I'm like, Trump said it's free. He got them down to 1,500 by 1,500%, which essentially means I'm not stealing. I'm taking them for free because Trump told me to. Trump said it was. But anyway, thank God that was his last State of the Union. Thank God. Well, thank God the State of the Union is over. We'll have another one next year, and hopefully, and we'll go through this again next year when he does another State of the Union, and until he's out of office in 28. Hopefully in November, when the midterms can't come soon enough, and hopefully by then, Trump will be held accountable, as will Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, Howard Lutnick, Brandon Carr, and every other shit-faced person in that administration. Until then, we have to be resilient and vigilant. We know who Trump is, and we just have to keep our chin up, be held high, and know that help is coming in a couple of months from now, when the Democrats retake control of both the House and the Senate. Until then, we have to remain strong, be vigilant, and apparently fend for ourselves and hope for the best. I'm sorry that this podcast went way too long. I got carried away with the timing, but it was just too important. So I thank you for listening. And please, if you want to add anything or if you have anything to say, I would love the comments. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the week and hang in there. Thank you for listening.